I'm not sure I'm good enough to do this. I have so many things to do still. Man, next time I see her, I'm gonna say, I wonder what this person will think if I do this. Why haven't I achieved this yet? What am I gonna be doing tomorrow? What am I gonna be doing after this? Did I even get there yet? What's that over there? That seems real interesting. When are they gonna respond back to this? When is the last time that
See that? I used to live in my head like that 24/7, thoughts swirling nonstop. Some of them I noticed and internalized, many of them I did not, and was completely unaware of their impact on my perception of life. Undoubtedly, in some capacity, you know what I'm talking about, and that's incessant thinking. And to be frank with you, my core baseline for as long as I can remember tends to be one to want to analyze things, which is a gift, but can be a curse if not properly prescribed. And because of this overthinking, it took me years to take my idea from concept to reality. Thankfully, that was then, and this is now. And my awareness to the existence of the monkey in my brain, as I like to call it, and implementing systems to slow it down has made a monumental impact on my life. And if this is something you struggle with, just know that you can make massive strides in reining back that overthinking brain and stopping the negative side effects that come with it. In this video, I'm going to share several methods that have helped me to curb overthinking and, most importantly, become aware of it. Solutions I know can make the same impact on your life if considered, but most importantly, applied. With that said, you know we've got to start with one of the go-tos when it comes to overthinking. And you saw him in my thumbnail already, so I've got to bring in the guy, Eckhart. And as those familiar know, his philosophy of living in the present moment to assist with the freedom from the thinking mind.
Presence is a space of no thought, but presence can also be there in the background even when thinking is happening. You can still be not completely involved in the thinking. Thinking loses the ability to create havoc in your life and confuse you.
See, many believe presence means the non-existence of thought, which it could, but not necessarily. As Eckhart vibes on, bringing presence to thinking can allow thinking to take a back seat to the incessant nature. It can bring you to a sense of realization about your previous lack of presence, which can lead you to a place where you now have the choice to continue with that behavior or change it. Now, if this confuses you, if this is new to you and you're not necessarily picking up what I'm putting down, please don't lose me here. Because what I don't want you to do is to overthinking, or believe that your thoughts should be completely suppressed. More often than not, your mind is going to think. It's wired to do so. Complex reasoning is what separates us as humans from other animals. To remove the idea that your thoughts have to be zero at all times, you're not a monk. And even monks themselves train decades to be that still. Decades. And let's be real, many don't have that type of time. You have kids, school, work, whatever it may be. However, this is not a platform for excuses. Instead, what we can do is learn to accept the thoughts that are part of our human condition, because most minds tend to operate in this nature. And it's better to learn how to craft our minds to our benefit than to let it craft us. And it's simply a matter of awareness and execution, not solving an equation. Speaking of awareness, that leads me into my hacks. The exact things I do to bring awareness to overthinking to minimize their negative impact on my everyday life. Y'all ready for this? Nah, not that. That's later tonight. Watch yourself. Tip numero uno. Early on in my journey, I found this to be extremely helpful. Weird, but helpful. When my man began racing, which was often, and then I noticed it, I would physically do this across my face to bring myself back. Very simple, and I'll show you again. So mind's haywire, fraying, going everywhere, or driving, mind's not in the right place, or very infrequently I do this in mid-conversation because I didn't want to draw attention to the act of doing this, but more so for me, I wasn't necessarily present. I noticed my mind was going different places. It was just a very subtle like this, and it brought me back. Mind you, I did this usually when I was alone, not so much around other people. And I'm not suggesting you do the exact same motion because there's nothing separating that physical action from any other. But the entire idea behind this was to tell myself with physical touch, Ian, you're not here. Get back. The key word here is physical. Because for me, if I told myself I'm not here, I found it didn't have that much staying power as much as physical touch personally for me. Touch was the sense that helped me, but yours could be anything. Smell, breath, deep inhalations. I once met a gentleman and his was very, very deep inhalation where he would essentially, if he noticed himself going into that, the monkey brain, he would just aggressive, but hey, if it works, it works. Ultimately, test out numerous things and just find what works for you. The key is to consider at least one physical action to add to your repertoire to physically bring you back once you catch yourself overthinking. And that leads me to tip number 2, become the watcher, as in the watcher of your thoughts. Remember earlier when I said most of us don't even recognize or process the majority of our thoughts? That stops here. Because when you become the watcher, you're now auditing your thoughts, the good ones and bad ones alike. In that audit, you can discover many things about yourself. Is this thought healthy? Is this thought serving me in whatever I want to achieve? And by doing this, you can bring awareness to potentially some of the things that are in your unconscious. It can be very powerful. And for me, in that watchful state of overthinking, this is one of my favorites to date, I label my thought with the emotion or core nature behind the thought. More specifically, if I notice myself thinking of a worst case future scenario that has no inkling of truth behind it or imminent danger and more than likely is coming from an unconscious fear, I'll label it right then and there in my head as fear. Literally speaking that to myself and adding that label to me whenever those thoughts come up, and whatever it may be, I'll say fear, jealousy, anger, insecurity, and adding that label for me tends to pop that thought and stop it from swirling in my head. It's almost like, oh, I caught you. You're not going anywhere. And that can not only bring me out of a state of non-presence, but switch my perception from one of fear to one of power. And my third and final tip, recognize the small win. Don't beat yourself up if you notice your mind racing when you begin the journey of trying to stay mentally still. It's actually a win you should be patting yourself on the back for whenever you become aware of your mind going in a place that's not here, because you become aware and you caught yourself. And awareness is the first step. Now that you've become aware, you've given yourself an opportunity to rein it back in, and you're at an inflection point where you can choose to bring yourself back to the present or allow those thoughts to continue to rummage through you. The choice is always yours, but I implore you, if you find yourself struggling with overthinking, please try at least one of these 3 things repeatedly. And over a long period of time, I promise you'll start to see change. And those that have watched this channel before know how much I harp on action, and I'm going to do it once again, because nothing we covered in this video or any video whatsoever means a thing if you don't actually put it into action. And I have an entire video on this very concept as it pertains to consuming content from thought leaders like Eckhart Tolle, like Joe Dispenza, or like any of the specific thought leaders that tend to be the ones that you gravitate towards in any type of field. This is a must watch. So click over here if you haven't checked it out. And if you have any tips for overthinking, definitely drop it in the comments so myself or anyone else can try it if they'd like. Much love.